Hey, Beastista here, and welcome to week 3 of the VDL. This week we are playing against the Sussux Sableyes. So let's get into the matchup. So on the left is my team, and on the right is my opponent's team. So looking at my opponent's team, some very noteworthy things you can see immediately is they have Togedemaru, Mr. Rhyme, and Purloin. All three of those Pokemon have Fake Out, and so they have the ability to get many Fake Outs and preventing my team from moving. So being able to either outspeed their Fake Out and Fake Out first, or having Protect on most of my team seems very important. In addition to that, we can see that they have Bravery, which Bravery not only does a lot of damage, it also has the move Tailwind. And so they have the ability to get speed control if they're able to get Bravery in without it being killed. In addition, Mr. Rhyme, which we mentioned earlier, is also does a very good damage, and I don't have a clean way to kill it with any Pokemon on my team really in one hit, and if they want to, and it can do a lot of damage to the majority of my team. And other than that, some of the big noteworthy things is they do have Chandelure and Mr. Rhyme, which both have Trick Room, which is a good way to kind of try to counteract my Trick Room specifically. And they also have Terrakion, which is just a good offensive Pokemon. So looking at my side, it's not super clear what is good on my team. It's a similar week in which I have a couple Pokemon that are faster than their entire team, and I've a couple of Pokemon that are slower than their entire team. So the ability to kind of just go in without Tailwind seems possible. The ability to go in and set up Trick Room seems pretty possible. And it definitely was not an easy way to kind of figure out because it's did not seem like an easy week or any like clear thing that I 100% expect on my opponent's team. But let's get into what I end up bringing. So this is my team. I decided to go with Toxicroak as my Focus Sash Fake Out Pokemon. I gave it Low Kick and I gave it Adamant Nature, making it not as fast as it could be, so that I can guarantee one-shot Terrakion no matter how much bulk with Low Kick. In addition to that, I gave it Sucker Punch to get it a little bit of damage before it dies, and then Dry Skin in case they decide to bring in Tapu Fini, which I don't necessarily expect. And then Gunk Shot is also a way to deal a big burst of damage to certain Pokemon because a move like Poison Jab was not doing as much as I would like. I also made sure it outspeeds two slower Fake-Outs on their team, which is Mr. Rhyme and Purloin, so it's guaranteed outspeed those, and then it also is guaranteed outspeed a Bravery as long as Bravery does not have a Jolly nature. And so hopefully Toxicroak seems pretty good with that. Next we have Skunk Take. I gave it an Expert Belt with Crunch, Poison Jab, and Play Rough. So Expert Belt Crunch on Skunk Tape gives it a not like a pretty reasonable chance to one-shot Mr. Rhyme depending on their specific build. It's not guaranteed, but it can one-shot it depending on. Other than that, Play Rough with the extra belt on Terrakion is a easy to hit KO no matter how bulky their Terrakion is. And Poison Jab is mainly there for Rotom, the possibility of something like Tapu Fini, and then also can poison, so it's a little bit better neutral damage than Crunch. Next we did Amoonguss. So Amoonguss, pretty similar set to last time. We gave it Protect, Rage Powder, and Spore, and then the third move is Pollen Puff. This definitely can help with some of our bulkier Pokemon if the game gets a little bit long, and also can be pretty good at dealing with if I'm expecting a couple of Protects on my opponent's side. So I gave it the Koba Berry. The reason why is Bravery has the ability to one-shot Amoonguss no matter how much investment I have if it's adamant and holding a Life Orb and Sheer Force. And so I decided to give it a Koba Berry. And so with this, I should survive pretty much anything, or at least one hit from anything. The only thing that might be able to do it is if there's like a choice specs that I wasn't expecting. But for the most part, I should survive everything with the Koba Berry. So next we gave Naganadel. Naganadel, I'm not sure if I like this moveset, but I decided to give it the Papaya Berry to give it a little bit of resistance to psychic moves, and then Nasty Plot, Sludge Bomb, and Draco Meteor. So +1 Draco Meteor should kill almost any Terrakion. A +1 Draco Meteor should kill almost any bravery, and then a +2 Draco Meteor should pretty much kill anything on their team. So next we have Slowking with Regenerated Life Orb and its Trick Room again. I gave it Flamethrower and Psychic. So Psychic hits pretty much almost everything on their team for super effective or neutral damage, except for a couple Pokemon, and Fire hits all the Pokemon that resist Psychic or are immune to Psychic for at least neutral. Other than that, I gave it. It should be able to take a hit from almost everything on the team, and it's pretty good at being able to one-shot something like Terrakion, and can bring Togedemaru down to sturdy or other things like that. And finally, we gave Weezing. I gave it Assault Vest, 2 Fairy moves, and Flamethrower and Thunderbolt. Thunderbolt to deal with Bravery a little bit, Dazzling Gleam to just be able to break some Focus Sashes or kill a Pokemon that's down to its Focus Sash. Strange Thing to do a little bit more damage, and Flamethrower. I give it Assault Vest so it can survive some good special attacks. But other than that, I give it Neutralizing Gas, specifically mainly to deal with Sheer Force on Braviary, Prankster on Purloin, and to deal with Sturdy on Togedemaru. But other than that, that's basically my team. I definitely don't know. I don't feel particularly confident about this set of teams, but a lot of the other things I tried didn't seem particularly good. So let's see how it goes.
So here we are for match 1. So looking at my opponent's team, they pretty much have exactly what I was expecting. I wouldn't have been surprised if they had like Rotom-Mow in addition to one of the, or instead of one of these, because it can disregard Amungus's Rage Powder. But for the most part, this is what I expect. It's definitely unclear what I want. Some of my main leads were Toxicroak, Skuntank, Toxicroak, Slowking, and Amoonguss Slowking. And I'm mainly deciding what I think was the best option of these. So here I go with Toxicroak, Skuntank. So I'm mainly deciding whether or not I want Amoonguss, Naganadel, or Naganadel Weezing in the back. And it's definitely not clear, because Amoonguss is a good switch into ground move, and then Weezing is just kind of more offensive. And so I decided to go with Weezing. So my opponent starts off with Terrakion. This is definitely a lead that I'm not too surprised on. I have Skuntank, Toxicroak. So here there are 2 main options. I can go immediately for the low kick and try to one-shot Terrakion, or I can fake out one of the 2. So looking into my opponent's thought, I'm like, okay, so it's clear that I can have fake out. And so I definitely am hesitant on kind of just faking out immediately. So I just consider a low kick and protect on Skuntank. Or, low kick and attacking with Skuntank. So I end up going with the fake out on Braviary and the play rough tracking, because that should be a 2-shot. I don't know if that ends up being correct, because, but we'll see. So they end up getting an Earthquake off with the Terrakion. And this went quite bad. So we get the play rough, and the play off does good damage into him, and it's a kill next turn. However, as we can see, I definitely can't kill this turn. And so I check my back to see if I have any good switch-ins, and the answer is no. And so there's not much I can do here except Toxicroak is going to die. And so I decide to just Sucker Punch into the Bravery spot and protect the Skuntank to survive, or to get a free switch in. So we see we get the protect, and Sucker Punch goes off, and it goes pretty good damage into the Bravery, getting it around a little bit over half. And they get the Earthquake off. And it kills the Toxicroak. And they Zen Headbutt into the Protect. So here I'm not feeling particularly great, but the correct choice is definitely the Naganadel, because Naganadel should outspeed both Pokemon on my opponent's team. And so here, it's definitely a little bit tricky on what I should click, but I'm debating between what I feel like is more likely to kill my Naganadel, and I definitely think that Bravery is more likely to one-shot my Naganadel than Terrakion is. And since I should outspeed Terrakion, I think I can kill Bravery and then kill Terrakion next turn. So here I'm mainly checking to see if I can Sludge Bomb into Braviary or if I have to use Draco Meteor to get it. And so I go with Sludge Bomb and Bravery, and then I just hit the double protect. I would have ran out of time, so double protect would have been really good there, but I ended up not getting it. And because I died from the Earthquake, it doesn't really matter what I clicked. And we see that, however, the big thing here was Terrakion outspeeds my Naganadel, which means that it's Choice Scarf. And here I definitely feel like the game is over. I don't have a great way to deal with this. So bring in my last Pokemon, and I feel like I would be in very good shape, actually, if this Weezing was Levitate instead of Neutralizing Gas. However, because it is Neutralizing Gas, I'm pretty much dead here. And so here I just Protect and go for a Dazzling Gleam, which should kill Terrakion and break Togedemaru's Sturdy. And then, and also because Terrakion's stuck on Earthquake, the Earthquake is going to kill the Terrakion. I mean, their Togedemaru. But they switch out the Terrakion. And we get the Protect on the Naganadel. And they do fake out into Naganadel. And so here we get a little bit of damage into both of them. However, I'm definitely not feeling great. So the obvious play my opponent's going to do is probably fake out the Naganadel and Iron Head into the Weezing. So I decide to Flamethrower into the Togedemaru and attempt to go for the double protect on Naganadel to not die to a fake out. And so if I'm able to get the double protect and then kill Togedemaru, I definitely think that I have a non-zero chance, but probably close to zero. So they do Iron Head into the Weezing. I take it reasonably well, but it ends up doing quite a bit of damage. And here we kill the Togedemaru. And they bring out back out Terrakion. And so here, there's not much I can do. Terrakion outspeeds both me, and the Earthquake will kill both of them. So basically, I think I just have to try to kill Terrakion and hope that they don't hit Earthquake. So they protect, which means that they likely clicked Earthquake, and they end up Earthquaking, and that gets us. So game one definitely went very bad. However, I feel like there's a good chance that I probably could have gotten game one if I would have just low kicked into Terrakion turn one. And so I definitely got hard punished for that decision to go for the fake out instead of the low kick. And so going into game two, I'm like, okay, I feel like that a similar lead would be pretty good. So here we are for game two. So like I said, I think Toxicroak seems like a pretty good lead, even though we end up losing, because I feel like I just low kicked, I probably win the game. And so I'm just kind of deciding what I think is a good second and third Pokemon to pair it with. And so I can do the same lead, which isn't terrible. It does well into a lot of their options. Or I can do a Mungus, which can be pretty good in the situation that it's good at redirecting and possibly doing some Spore concerning. I decided to pair it with a Mungus and go with Skuntank and Naganadel in the back. So here we see they bring Bravery and Mr. Rhyme, which I think is a fine lead for me, not particularly terrible. And so here, I think the play is just to fake out into Mr. Mime and go for the Spore into the Bravery. I'm guaranteed to outspeed Mr. Mime because Mr. Rhyme because we know that Choice Scarf is on uh, Terrakion. And so they end up protecting the Bravery and protecting the Mr. Rhyme to just play around my fake out turn 1, which I think is a reasonable decision. And the Sporter and the fake out don't do anything. And so here I decide between a couple things. I think the big one is whether or not I should attack Bravery or Mr. Rhyme. I think because Sucker Punch is 100% accurate, it's probably easier to just click Sucker Punch at Mr. Rhyme. And then the main decision is to protect or spore. So if I protect and they just double up to Toxicroak, I get really punished. And if I spore and they double up into Amoonguss, I can get hurt. So I decided to go with the spore. Sucker Punch is a clean 2-hit KO on the Mr. Rhyme, and then they do Bravery into the Amoonguss, and Amoonguss takes that because of the Copa Berry. And here we see that they pick up a lot of recoil, and that they are Life Orb. And then we see that they doubled up into the Amoonguss and Psychic. So it's definitely a little bit sad because I think if they would have targeted, or if I would have protected instead, I definitely think I am in a commanding position to probably win this game. But sadly, it doesn't happen. And so here I'm deciding between Nagandal and Skunk Tank. I think Nagandal is the correct decision because my opponent is going to be faster than Skunk Tank. And so here I decide to just go with, I'm deciding a couple of things, but the big thinking, I'm just thinking, okay, is Sludge Bomb on Mr. I'm going to kill it? And the answer is yes. So I decided to go with Gunk Shot into Bravery, which should kill it, and Sledge Bomb into Mr. Rhyme, which should kill it. And at this point, I do not know, and I think Toxicroak is likely going to outspeed Bravery, but we'll see. And so they switch out Purloin, and they protect Bravery. And we get a Sludge Bomb into the Purloin, and a Gunk Shot ends up going into the Protect of the Bravery. And so here, a couple of decisions. The main one is what I expect from Purloin, and I'm expecting a fake out. And so I can kind of do two main options. I can just go for a double attack and say one of my Pokemon are going to kill Bravery if they hit it, or I can protect and try to kill the Purloin. I decide to double up onto the Bravery spot, and we end up losing connection. So this is definitely a little awkward. Second week in a row that I had disconnection problems, and it says that I still connected to the internet, so I don't know what ends happening. My opponent said they also connect to the internet, and so we decided to just go again, and we decided to go again and just have the same start. Here we are for the replay of game 2. There was actually a second disconnect, and it was really awkward, but I decided to skip it because it just repeat. So this is a replay of the previous game, but until we get to the same point. It's really awkward that we had two disconnects. I don't know what happened. Me and them both restarted our computers, and we both were able to hopefully get this in, and there's no more disconnects, so spoiler alert. So here we go, we're in the same position we were before the timeout, which is I'm expecting a pick up from Purloin, so I can attack with both and just accept one of them is going to flinch, or I can try to predict a fake out of the Naganadel and protect it. I decide to go for the double up on the Bravery because I feel pretty confident that it should be dead at the end of the turn. They end up getting the fake out and the crit, which the crit doesn't really matter too much. Nagano gets faked out, and they Brave Bird into the Toxicroak, which is very good for me because that means Toxicroak's still alive, and I should be able to kill Bravery if I hit it with the Skunk Shot. And I end up missing the Gunk Shock, which is really sad, and probably would have won me the game there, but it's hard to tell at this exact point. But definitely now is not feeling great. And so here we have a couple options. I can Sucker Punch the Bravery and then kill the Nagano with or kill the Proton with Sludge Bomb, or I can just Sludge Bomb in low kick. I decided to Sludge Bomb in low kick, and I think that ends up being a very bad decision because they Thunder Wave into me. I thought I was like, oh, I should definitely outspeed the Nagano or Bravery, and it's a good chance that they might switch. And they end up not switching, and I underspeed because of that. And yeah, ends up being pretty bad. However, the Bravery does kill itself with the recoil from Bravebird, and the low kick does end up killing the Purloin. However, I definitely feel like I am in a pretty poor situation now. And so here I bring in Skunk Tank. And they bring in Terrakion and Mr. Rhyme. And so here I'm like, okay, I think the only reasonable play I can do is just protect and hope they click Earthquake and kill their own Mr. Rhyme. And then at that point, I might be able to get them with a crit on my play rough. And so I go for that, and we can see what ends up happening. And so we protect Skunk Tank. And they do fake out into the Skunk Tank spot, and they end up hitting Earthquake. And so this definitely gives me an out by them killing Mr. Rhyme. And so I'm down to just a 1v1 with Skunk Tank versus Tracheon. I have super effective play rough with an Expert Belt, and they have an Earthquake. I know this never one-shots unless it crits, and then their Earthquake is probably a 2-hit KO. And they end up getting the Earthquake off, and I take it, but clearly I'm going to die next turn if they hit me. And I end up getting the playoff and don't get the crit and end up getting there. This week, definitely I didn't feel super great. I think that there's a good chance that I could have won game one if I would have low kicked, and then turn two, I definitely think, or game two, I definitely think there's a good chance I would have won if I would have gotten the gunk shut off, because my Nagano would have survived. However, I think honestly, I think I made some questionable decisions in maybe not going with Trick Room in game two or game one. I think it seems very good, and their only really Pokemon that really deals with that is Chandelure, and I don't think it's even a great answer to it. And their team definitely outsped me more than I would have liked, and so I feel like if I would have got Trick Room, I probably could have gotten there. But that happens. So it was a good day of my opponent. Definitely not the most exciting matches, but sadly, I got my first loss of the season. Thanks for watching.